Welcome to the Generic Tech Support YouTube channel. Let's play a game of Name That Device. Leave a comment down below if you know what this device is. Like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. Hey guys. So in today's video I wanted to touch base on something that's been brought up multiple times about using the Linux operating system. And that's the limitations of using it as a day-to-day driver. Now, as some of you may or may not be aware of, there are limitations in the Linux system when it comes to using it as a day-to-day driver if you're used to a Windows platform, because you're not going to be able to use the exact Windows applications you can on your Linux system. And that is a bummer in some ways. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, in some respect, you can use some of those applications on your Mac system. And since Mac is really just a derivative of a Linux-based system, it's bizarre that you would be allowed to run it on Mac, but you can't run it on the Linux, Ubuntu systems, because they're really pretty close to the same thing. I mean, all the Linux systems are really pretty close to each other. But you would be 100% correct. You can't run everything on Linux. You could try things like Play on Linux. You could try things like Wine. You could try things like Mono. You may have some success with some of those things. Some games work okay. You're not going to be able to install Microsoft Office. And even if you do get it to work, it's not going to work 100%. And you're going to have buggy issues with it that are just not worth messing with. Because there are alternative applications out there that do similar to the Microsoft Office application. So let's start this video by going through those similar applications. Now, I've already installed this stuff on this system. However, in the wiki, I will put together the list of commands and everything else to get this application stuff installed on your machine. So one of the first things I want to look at is the built-in application in Linux Mint. Now, I decided to use Linux Mint for this because I think that that's going to be the familiar operating system that most people will go to with older hardware. And it comes pre-packaged with a lot of good things. Is it as fast as Debian Vanilla? No. But Debian Vanilla, you got to go through all the installation. And once you get everything installed, it'll be about the same as what you're dealing with Linux Mint. Now, the thing about Linux Mint is there's probably additional things in here that you could right-click and remove because you're just not going to use them. But in a lot of ways, it's a lot easier to just right-click on something and uninstall it than it is to go through the installation process. And the reason why I say that is because the vast majority of people are not comfortable when they first start using a Linux operating system how to do the sudo-based commands, even though it's really simple with just sudo apt install whatever the app name is and sudo apt remove whatever the app name is. But with that said, since this is really a pre-built system that comes with a lot of functional tools and settings and configurations right out of the box, it is a great starting point. So what I did is I installed FreeOffice. Now, it comes with LibreOffice, and LibreOffice is just a port of OpenOffice, which has been discontinued. So that's why we have LibreOffice. And LibreOffice works totally fine. I use it a lot. There's really nothing wrong with it. It works adequately for what I need it to do. But FreeOffice gives you a little bit more when it comes to familiar system applications. Like, for instance, the text maker, which is really just Microsoft Word, really looks just like Microsoft Word. There's really not much of a difference. Even the layout and the tabs on the top are very similar. They're familiar, so it's very easy to use. The same thing can be said about the application that we'll find in here called PlanMaker. PlanMaker looks a lot like Excel. And you could add formulas, and it works just like Excel with the formulas that you add here versus what you would add in Microsoft Excel. Now, there's one limitation that both of these applications have. However, SoftMaker, which is the company that actually creates the FreeOffice, also makes an application called SoftMaker Office. And SoftMaker Office is a compliant application. It is designed and developed in Germany. It meets the German equivalent of a CMMC compliance, so it is secure. But even on top of that, it offers VBA integration, which means that you can run macros on it, which gives you the option to have an application that's similar to Microsoft Office that has the full Office functionality with the exception of Outlook. Now, SoftMaker does have one drawback. And that drawback is it's $50 a year to purchase the license to use. Now, if we compare that to Microsoft's Business Premium license at $22 a month, it seems like a pretty good bargain. And you do get a lot of plugins and a lot of tools that go along with that, as well as support. So if you need any help or have problems, you can call support and speak to them, and they are helpful. So that's a good application to use if you're looking for an alternative to a Microsoft Office application that supports macros because of the VBA integration services that go along with it. It's one of the few that I know of that absolutely will work as a complete replacement to the Microsoft Office products that we're going to find in a Windows-based operating system. So that really covers our Office side, but what about Outlook? Outlook is the elephant in the room scenario where this is the application that everybody wants to use. Well, we have the built-in application that we're going to find in the actual system here, which is called Thunderbird. Let me just scroll down here until we find it. There we go. We can launch Thunderbird. Now, Thunderbird is an interesting application. And the reason why I say it's interesting is because it's groupware. If you don't know what groupware is, it's basically a grouping of multiple pieces of software that you could use as a business one-stop application. So Thunderbird offers this as groupware. And it's kind of a cool concept. Because it's groupware, it has a ton of functionality. Now, we can't see it, so you'll have to picture it right now. But on the left-hand side here, under the Mail client, would be all the listing for your folders. In this area here would be your actual emails, like the titles, the descriptions, whatnot. The subject would all be listed here. And then on the right-hand side here would be the actual email, which is an identical layout to one of the views that you'll find in Microsoft Outlook. But you don't just get mail in this thing. You're also going to get the ability for address books, address book collection, configuration. You're going to get the integration services to integrate your calendars, so that way you could view all the calendar information. And then you could have multiple calendars listed here and share them individually from the actual application. You're also going to get tasks. The tasks is cool because it's the flagged emails that you would get in Outlook. Those flags would show up individually in here based off a task, and due dates listed based off of the calendar, making it much easier than even the Outlook version to view this stuff. In addition, you get something here called Chat Account. Now, the Chat Account could actually integrate with things like Slack. So you could run everything from one location and not have to have 15 tabs open on the bottom in Windows to view 15 different applications that all do the same thing. And that's why groupware could be a really nice thing if it's done right. Now, there's a couple caveats to using Thunderbird. Number one is the fact that Thunderbird is noisy. There's a lot going on here. And in my opinion, you could easily miss things because of all the different things going on in one application. One of the nice things about Windows is that when you get an email, you get a flashing icon down here. When you get calendar invites, you get a flashing icon down here. In Thunderbird, at least in my experience, no matter what happens, you get one flashing icon, and then you have to drill into all the different menus to figure out what exactly it is that you're missing or behind on. Another caveat to Thunderbird is its integration services. Now, Thunderbird and a variety of other open source all use a format called Mbox. And this is not a fly-by-night format. Mbox has existed since Netscape Mail existed. Incidentally, that's what Thunderbird is built on, Netscape Mail. So while Thunderbird is new, it's really not. It's been around for longer than Microsoft Outlook. It's been around for a very, very, very long time. Matter of fact, it was once very popular by a company called AOL, or America Online, and was made famous for using the You Got Mail audio. That was an Mbox format email system designed by Netscape, and specifically what turned into Thunderbird. Now, if you don't know AOL was basically groupware that you purchased that was America Online. It was an online service, a dial-up service that was extremely popular and then disappeared completely. I laugh because I periodically run into people that still have AOL email addresses. And when you see those, it makes you feel very nostalgic, I'll be honest. But I would really suggest against running an AOL email address at this point. It is blocked by nearly every business out there because the vast majority of scams, spyware, and spam all come from AOL. So one of the other limitations of this Mbox format is obviously that it's not a PST format. And where you run into issues with this is because if you have backups of mail in a PST format and you want to import them, Thunderbird doesn't really do a good job at handling that. it doesn't know what a PST file is, and you could copy mail and you could integrate things and all that other fun stuff. There are third-party tools you could use to do a conversion, but it doesn't work super well. Another thing about it that I don't like is that while it does work once you get it configured for like Office 365, it has a tendency of flaking. Therefore, it's not super reliable. So I don't tend to use it. Now, if I have a customer or a client or somebody that I'm working with that uses Gmail, then it's a different story, because Gmail uses the mbox format right out of the box. No pun intended. And since that's the case, you can integrate Gmail directly into Thunderbird and it works 100% of the time, all the time. You don't end up with that buggy flakiness. But what if you don't have Gmail? What if you have an O365 account? What other alternatives exist? So I'm going to try to save you on the clickety-clackety keyboard because it seems to annoy a lot of people, and I'm really sorry about that, but I'm not getting rid of it. So what we're doing is sudo apt install evolution. So to install evolution mail, that's probably the better client that you're going to want to use if you're on an O365 configuration. And the reason why is because it's super easy to configure on an O365 configuration. So again, sudo apt install evolution, all lowercase. Once that finishes, you're going to want to do the same command with the -EWS. And then run it again. And what that'll do is that'll install the additional package that will be required for the integration services of Office 365. Now, Evolution Mail is available on Windows, but in order to install this EWS portion on Windows, I believe it is a paid software. Okay, so once that's done, all we got to do is click on Start. We're going to go Office, find Evolution, and click on it. And we're going to get a welcome thing here. I'm not going to check the do not show this wizard again so we can get it again, but I'm going to close that just for the time being so we can take a look at what Evolution Mail actually looks like. Now, if it hasn't clicked for you yet, it looks like Outlook, probably like 2003 or 2007, which personally, I think this looks a lot cleaner than Thunderbird and a lot more familiar to most people that have gotten used to the Office application. It's also a lot less busy. But just because it's not busy doesn't mean it's not groupware. It still is. It's just more organized in the way it provides that information. For instance, we have mail, we still have contacts, we have calendar, we have tasks, we have memos, so we could create memos. And then we have additional options up here. So we have memo list, we have all-day appointments, we could set appointments, we can assign tasks, we could do configuration of contacts, we can send emails or set up email messages. We could set up meetings. We could set up tasks. Again, address book, calendar, collection account, mail folder, and then task list. Then we also have options on the right here where we can modify the way things look. So if we go to view, we can actually change the view for the layout. For instance, show the menu bar. So if I click that, now we have the file, edit, view, search, and help at the top versus on the right-hand side, which once again gives us more of a view as to looking more like a Microsoft Office or Microsoft Outlook product. But what if we want to get O365 to connect and configured on this? Now, if you ran the commands correctly, the -EWS command, at that point, all you'd really have to do is open up Evolution Mail for the first time. So we go to Office and Evolution. We'd get this pop-up window and we'd click on Next. It's going to ask us if we want to restore a backup file. Now, the thing about Evolution Mail that's better than Thunderbird is that Evolution Mail can convert a PST into an mbox format or convert an mbox format into a PST. So that means you could use this application to import the old settings and configurations you had from your PST file. Now, when I went to Linux originally into the Evolution Mail setup, what I did is I used the O365 configuration with my Windows machine to take a PST backup of my folder structure layout. So that way, when I signed in for the first time on my actual Evolution Mail and I imported that PST file, all my settings were already pre-configured. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's an option. But we're not going to do that here. We're just going to click on Next. So what we're seeing here is this required information. Now, the full name is actually the display name that you would see on an email. So if you send an email as Joe Smith, it would show as Joe Smith. This is why it's really important for you to understand how this works as an office worker. because that means that anybody can be anybody. I could be Bill Gates. All I'd have to put in there is Bill Gates. And when I sent an email, my display name would show Bill Gates. I could also make my name the same name as your owner of your company. And that's how that these people get away or around with the phishing attempts. They claim to be somebody else on your internal company. So they put their name in the display name. They send you an email. You think you're replying to it because in Microsoft Outlook, all it shows is the display name. It no longer shows the full email address anymore. So when you reply back, you think you're replying to one person, but in reality, you're replying to a scammer. And those scammers will then take the information that they collect from you and either use that in a nefarious way or use that to steal money. And that's how that works. But for the sake of this, we're just going to make it innocent. We're just going to call ourselves Tech Guy 1. And then our email address has to be our email address. So for this, we're just going to use our Generic Tech Support YouTube channel email, which is just tgo@GenericTechSupport.com. So there we go. And now at this point, what we could do is we could click on Next to automatically look up the server and the email address. However, in Evolution Mail, this doesn't work right. And because we installed EWS, and that's an additional package, it's not going to find it. So what we're going to do is we're going to uncheck this and click on Next. So once we click on Next, this is where it gets real interesting, because you would think you want to use the IMAP configuration with the, I think it's outlook.office365.com, and I believe it's port 993. And then I think on the sending, it's it might be Outlook or it's Office. I can't remember. .outlook.365.com or something to that effect for the SMTP. It might actually be smtp.office365.com. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's not necessary because in Evolution Mail, we're just going to click the drop down. This is the EWS install you just did. So we're going to choose Microsoft 365. We're going to choose to use TGO GenericTechSupport.com. And then we're going to click on Next. We're going to leave the authentication override configurations alone and click on Next. Now, we want to check for messages probably every 30 minutes. Not necessary to check for them any faster for the sake of this or our channel email box. But if you're a real popular guy or girl, you can change that to 5 minutes or whatever you want so it constantly checks. That's up to you. That's preference. I'm also going to check the box to check for all messages in all folders. Because if you have subfolders, and you have rules configured on O365 web version, and you don't check that checkbox, then you may not get the mail in your inbox or it won't show in the correct folder. So make sure that's checked. The other option you should probably check is to synchronize remote mail locally in all folders. So that way it syncs the mail messages between both locations without you having to click on it. The downside to this is if your mailbox is absolutely tremendous, it will download all the mail. If your mailbox isn't absolutely tremendous, then you could check this and it will download all the mail. But I will say that if your mailbox is tremendous, don't check that checkbox because what you could do is you could still view the stub record, but it won't download the full message until you click on it, which will keep it much smaller. That's the way the newer versions of Outlook work, but you have the option to do one or the other in here. In addition, you could choose to do more than one connection. I would suggest not doing that because you may lock yourself out on your O365 account. Microsoft doesn't play very well with multiple people trying to connect to one mailbox at one time, especially if you run like a VPN with a split tunnel. You'd end up in a world of hurt doing it that way, so don't use more than one concurrent connections at a time through the Evolution Mail client. I'm going to synchronize all my mail locally because it doesn't make any difference. It's not a very big account. So we're going to click on Next. And then in here, we're going to have to set the account name. Now, you'll notice that on here, it says on this computer. That's an account name. So what we could do is we could just call this Generic Tech Support YouTube. And then we could click on Next. Okay, guys, so let's apply this and see what happens. So you're going to see that we have an error message on the screen. Now this is going to be normal, so we're just going to click on Reconnect. And at that point, we're going to get the logon to log into our TGO at Generic Tech Support account. So now we just got to put our credentials in. So that's about it. Once you add your credentials, you'll see now we have Generic Tech Support listed. And we could click on this. We could actually choose Send Receive. And we'll see the notification that we have a short amount of time where we could cancel the mail operation. But at this point, this is configured and running. So we do have our generic tech support YouTube email now in our inbox configuration. At this point, what I would suggest you do, because you don't really need it, is just to right-click on this and do Disable Account. And now you just have your generic tech support, or whatever it is, your friendly name, your display name, or whatever your Office 365 email is now entered into here. So all you really need to do then is you just click this little checkbox or little clicker here, which will give you the drop down and show you all of the messages that currently exist inside of your inbox, your junk mail, and all that other stuff that is new that you haven't read yet. Once you drill into these locations, on the right-hand side here, you'll get the emails, and then down below, you get the full body of text. Now, you could change the way this looks. You could update the views and all the other settings, but at this point, we are connected to our Office 365 account with Evolution Mail. And that was really pretty straightforward, right? All we had to do is go through the step-by-step process, install those 2 packages. When it errors out, just hit reconnect, authenticate, and go back in. Now, if you have MFA set up like I do, when you click that authenticate button, you're going to get a notification on the screen that it's attempting to download the certificate. It will not download the certificate until you jump into your authenticator application or whatever you use for your multi-factor authentication and approve the connection. At that point, you should be able to connect no problem. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys from an Office perspective, using something that's similar to Outlook. Let's take a look at another application. So another one that's common is the need or the requirement for modifying PDF files. Now, you could do this with a built-in application such as Draw from Libra. So if we go into Libra and specifically look at LibreOffice Draw, we could go in here and we could use this particular application to modify a PDF file. So you can edit a PDF file in this application, although it is a little clunky and it feels a little dated. So in searching for an application to do it, I came across an application suite specifically called PDF SAM. Now, PDF SAM does have a paid version. The commercial version gives you the addition of being able to encrypt PDF files, to decrypt PDF files, and do a lot more things with PDF files. But the basic version, which is the free version, really gives you a lot of the same functionality that you would find in, like a Foxit version or a Phantom PDF, or even like a Kofax PDF application. Which, by the way, Kofax PDF on Windows is like 15 million times better than Adobe PDF on Windows. So if you're still paying for Adobe PDF, check out Kofax. They are way better and much, much cheaper. So much like our SoftMaker prior, all we have to do is just right-click on this and open it with the package installer. Get the notification, just click install, and then we have to enter our creds and it will install. Now you're probably wondering where this package came from. Well, I did download it, and the download information will be in the wiki. So we're just going to click on Authenticate to proceed. And there it is. It's installed. So now if we go into the Start menu here and we go back into Office, let's see if it's there. Yep, so there's PDF SAM. And you're going to see all the options you get with the PDF SAM. Now, keep in mind, premium features, these are paid. And based on the color, depends on the actual application you would have to purchase in order to get these to work. But you can extract, split and bookmark, or split by size, merge, insert pages, alternate mix, or rotate these PDFs free of charge with PDF SAM Basic. Okay, so we've covered alternatives to Outlook. We've covered alternatives to Office, both commercial and personal use applications. We've covered PDF files. What else am I missing on a day-to-day scope or a day-to-day use for either a home-based machine that would need access to document management or document editing, or even a commercial-based machine that would need access to the same applications? Let me know down in the comments if I'm missing anything. I could create a part 2 to this video. Hopefully you found this helpful. Again, check the wiki for the links and everything else that have to actually pertain to this operating system, and the configuration setup with some screenshots on the configuration side of what you got to do to get Evolution Mail to work. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for sticking around. I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching the Generic Tech Support YouTube channel. Find the content of this video at https://generictechsupport.com/channel.